Thank you to all you teachers out there, because our sermon today is following along with this series of We Speak. And before we go any further, I need Nolan and I need Jude to come forward. And they're going to lead us in Scripture. And we're going to be in James chapter 3, 1 through 12. And we have talked about this. I think Mark's preached on it recently. It is taming the tongue. And they're going to read that for us today. James chapter 3, verses 1 through 12. Give them a second to get there. I still hear pages turning.
Not too many of you should become teachers of my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. We all stumble in many ways. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. When we put bits in the mouths of horses, we make them obey us. We can turn the whole animal body. Or we take ships as an example. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also, the body. It corrupts the whole body and sets the whole course, one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell.
For every creature, animal or bird, reptile or fish, is tamed and has been tamed by man. But no man can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse men who are made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come blessings and cursings. My brothers, these things should not be this way. Does a spring pour out sweet and bitter water from the same opening? Can a fig tree produce olives, my brothers, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can salt water spring yield fresh water.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Actually, will you take this back to Albert? That'd be great. Give him a round of applause. It's not easy to come up here. I also want to go ahead and thank all of these students that have helped already. So Eliana, Jacob, Nolan, Jude, Ryan, Dylan, Will, Lucas, Jake, Chase, Aiden, Elise, Sydney, Sam, Maddie. Am I missing any that you guys can think of? If I missed you already, go ahead and throw your hand up. I tell you, every single time we're getting more youth and more youth, and my goal is for Youth Sunday is that I don't have to do anything. I can say that, right? But my goal is that they're running the whole thing, because you know why? They are the next generation. They are the church. And today's series is, I don't know if it's the final of the series. Nope. But it happened to land here that our lesson today is we speak in our youth. We speak into the lives of our youth. Chase, I have to say that your goal won't be accomplished if someone gives their life to Christ. Your goal is accomplished when you're faithful to God and going. So keep going with that. It never ends. It continues to go. So don't think if no one gave their Christ that you failed. You completed while you went. You were faithful in going. But to keep going. So today is a plea for us, for you, to be the example for our youth. Today is a plea for us to speak life into our youth. It's a plea for us to not let our youth walk this earth alone. Today is a plea for us to make a difference. That we might have control over many things in life. But how we speak, how we conduct ourselves, how we love, how we live out our faith, those are something that we have very much control over. When Mark stated or told me that this series, what I was going to be preaching on today for Youth Sunday, I was like, that is going to be so easy. We speak in our youth. We do these things for our youth, and that's it. But for the last month and a half to 2 months since I've known, I've been through like one or two different sermons. And that each effort was a failing effort. And then I could not figure out what it is that I was supposed to say. And it wasn't until I was prompted by one of our 7th graders to watch a show that I realized where this sermon needed to go. So this past week, I binge watched. Now, binge watching is when you take a lot of time out of your day, out of your week, to complete a series. And so I watched 13 different episodes of this show. And once I finished, I knew that this is what I needed to talk about. And it wasn't the sort of binge watching TV that, it wasn't like the second season of Andy Griffith. It wasn't, DVRing, watching all your DVR'd favorite, Golden Girls or something like that. It wasn't easy watching. This show is 13 Reasons Why. And I don't know if you know about it, but it is, when I finished it, I was heartbroken. I could not believe that this is what our youth are subject to. And our parents, our grandparents, our adults don't even know. So, I watched this show that I was told to go ahead and watch. I would not recommend your teen watching it. I would not recommend you watching it. I challenge you, I encourage you to have crucial conversations about sex, about drugs, about alcohol, about suicide, because all of those things are graphically portrayed in that show. Some of you teens, you've already watched it, haven't you? You've already seen it. You already know kids that are watching it. You already know kids are talking about it at school. And the thing that the show does have going for it is that it's probably pretty realistic. But it's not giving us a portrayal that there is something more to life than the right now. That we have a bigger and deep and a much bigger hope. And so we have this opportunity to speak life into a dark world that our youth live in. And if we fail to speak life, if we fail to confront these issues, if we fail to not bring these issues and conversations up, and your students are going to hate me right now, because you're going to go home and you're going to talk to them about this, because they've probably already seen the show or they've seen it on Netflix. Maybe it was a free trial that they got just so they could binge watch it as well. But you need to have these conversations about these things, because it's more now than ever, it's in their lives. And if we fail to speak life and hope into our youth, someone else will speak something completely different than what you believe into them. And they will believe it. I was knocked out after watching this show. It was graphic. It was heartbreaking. It was dark. It was sad. It was frustrating. And I still can't get it out of my head. The day I finished it, I went to bed that night. I still woke up the next day thinking about it. And so I feel like I need to put a lifeline out there. And so, youth, I want you to hear while you're still awake. I want you to hear this. Life can get crazy hard. People can be crazy stupid and mean. But you are loved. You have worth. You have value. You have a future. No matter what you're going with right now, you have a future, and that whatever it is that you're going with right now, I will walk through it with you. Your parents will walk through it with you. Your grandparents will walk. Our church will go through it with you. That you are not alone. That what you're going through in life, it does matter. And life matters. And that we will work it out. And that the things that you feel, they are real. Those things are real that you feel. But you are not alone, even in the simplest of things. So adults, while you're still awake, listen to this. We have an opportunity to speak in our youth. What does this mean? We'll get into that in a little bit. But we need to take responsibility for the great commission that we were given. That we have to remember that what our youth was like. We remember the hard times. We remember the situations that came across and how we dealt with them. We remember the guilt, the shame, the pits in our stomach that we had when we did something bad. Do you remember feeling that there was a way out of something? So this is for the older generation. When you did something bad, and I want a show of hands, do you remember that there was a way out? That maybe it was just going through the consequence, that was the way out? Does anyone remember that? Go ahead and raise your hand. Surely you remember that. I remember that. And my childhood was different than your childhood. Our youth today don't feel like there's a way out. They don't feel like they have that. Our youth are going through things that I never did. And it wasn't that I was a better student or didn't have tough situations. It's that our culture has changed so drastically that when I was a youth, most knew that we could get through anything. It's not the same now. The innocence is gone, the courage is gone, and youth are being preyed upon. Most of you adults lived in a time where someone was there to back you up. Now, when we are more populated than ever, and we have more interaction with people all around the world, we still live in isolation. We still live alone. And we're still struggling to find purpose. Darkness, isolation, and rage is ruling the world. So I say to you adults, all of you adults, that you can change a life by the way that you speak into it. That we speak by our actions. We speak by our programs here at church. We speak with our words. And we can speak three things into the lives of our students. We can speak darkness into their life. We can speak life. We can speak light into their lives. And we can speak hope into their lives. So I'm going to do something weird because I'm the youth minister and I can. I want all of the youth, from little kids to 19, I want you to come forward. All of you. I don't, you can put your quiet pack down, kids. Kids. See if they'll register. Kids. I want all of the youth, I want you to come right up here, right on these 3 steps or down on the floor. And if you need to help them up here, you help them up here. Leave them here, ditch them here. That's what you do for youth group anyway. So, I'm just kidding. Come on up, Caleb. Come on up, guys. I want all of the youth up here. Shh. Do we have them all? Okay. Hey, call them out. Call them out. Okay. So I want you to look at this. I have Mark doing me a favor. We have a lot of youth here in the service today. How many was it, Mark? 3,000. So about $502.33. $502.33. So 49? Okay. So, what I need is I need 10 of you to separate. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just to go over there. Okay? Or close enough. Here, yep, go over there. Okay. What I need is I need 7 of you to go sit down. So you 3 on the stage, you guys stay. Or you 4. We'll stay with you 4. Okay, out of you guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need you guys to just go ahead and have a seat. Thank you for coming up. Good job. Okay. 1, 2, 3. You guys over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You guys go ahead and have a seat. 1, 2, 3. You guys, right over there. You, go have a seat. Go have a seat. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go ahead, have a seat. 1, 2, 3. You guys stay. Go ahead and stay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You guys go have a seat. 1, 2, 3. You guys, you're going to stay. You guys can have a seat. Thank you for coming up. 1, 2, 3. You guys go ahead and have a seat. Caleb, you need to come over here too. Seven out of 10 students will drop out of the church. By the time that they're a young adult, 7 out of 10 students will drop out of church. We had 49 up here, right? Somewhere around there. So I sent 7 down, I kept 3. 7 down and kept 3. 7 down and kept 3. So these are what's representing the ones that stay in the church. If they spent 1 year through high school going to church consistently, 7 out of 10 of them will drop out. That number is alarming. Why is it that that number is the way that it is? Because these are the ones that are representing the church. Those others are the ones that we failed to speak life into. Now, we can't take responsibility for their choices, I understand. I'm going to go ahead and give them a round of applause. Just thanks for standing. Go ahead and have a seat. Seven out of 10 students. Oh, wow. I got paid. Thanks, buddy. I'm going to use him again. But 7 out of 10 students will drop out of the church. So we have a responsibility to speak life, to speak hope into our students. We can speak darkness, we can speak life, we can speak hope. That math, I know my math isn't the greatest, but that was pretty alarming. The statistics are hard to hear. That most of our kids will drop out of the church by the time they're a young adult. So what do we do about them? How do we break this cycle of our youth falling away from the church? And we're all involved. We're all called to speak life into these students. This is the church that needs to stand up and declare that our youth are important. Not just by the programs that we have here at church, but that they individually are important. Are you mentoring these students? Are you investing into these students? And I'm not talking about your checkbook, which we do appreciate. Thank you. But are you investing your time, your energy, your prayer life into these students? This church needs to stand and declare that our youth are important. The church. You guys do a good job. But the church need to make sure that they are calling out to our youth and letting them know that they are more important than you fill in the blank. Our youth are more important than you fill in the blank. We speak in our youth, and that is how we're going to break this cycle from 7 out of 10 dropping and falling away from the church. Proverbs 18:21, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The first part of this comes easy. Sticks and stones will, but words will break your soul. Sticks and stones will break your bones, or may break your bones, but words will break your spirit, they will break your soul, they will break your heart. And how we speak into our youth matters. How we invest into our youth matters. We can speak life into our youth. The tongue has the power of life and death. We speak life, we speak hope, or we speak death. We speak light or we speak darkness. We can give the gift of life, or we can let them go on living in darkness. You have that ability, church, to speak life. You have that ability, Christian, follower of Christ, to speak life. You don't have to wait for the church to do it. You speak life into our youth and find the fruit. That second part, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The ability to control the tongue is one of the clearest marks of wisdom. That's why we read James 3. Usually it's applied for just taming our tongue, but I'm going to say apply it to yourself as a whole. It may sound cliche, but it is wise to be wise with your tongue. Know the warning, though, that if we're not speaking life, what are we speaking? Death or darkness. So in order to speak life, we need to know what the reverse side of that is. So what is it to speak darkness? What is it to speak death? What does that look like? What does it look like to have darkness come from your mouth? And it's not that hard to speak darkness into someone's life, though. It looks a little bit like this when we talk down to our youth. Talk down to somebody. It looks like when we speak it at them and not with them. It looks like when we speak negatively to them. It looks like when we speak rashly to them. It looks like when we see ourselves more important than them. It looks like when we're annoyed that they're in the way of the TV. It's like, come on, man, just get out of the way. It looks a lot like our displeasure verbalized when they did their best. Now, I'm learning how to be a sports parent. Blake started soccer, and the last time we were there, he kept going to be goalie, and it's 3-on-3, and they don't do goalie. It's not allowed. And so whenever the ball came to him, he just bolted for the other goalie, or for the other goal to play goalie. Like the ball was right there, just sitting there, and he didn't kick it. He just ran away. And I'm like, ah! So I'm learning how to do this, but he was doing his best. And he heard me saying, Blake, do something different, do something different. Blake, I want you to always do your best. But when we voice our displeasure when our youth are doing their best, that's what darkness looks like. Speaking darkness into our youth doesn't even come intentional most times. It comes rather easy for us. Sometimes speaking darkness doesn't even require words. It's dirty looks. It's a cold shoulder. It's ignoring someone in need. It's the smallest things. James 3 said, tame your tongue. But if we don't look at it as a whole, our actions or lack of actions, those things might even speak louder than our words. So if I were to bring two of you adults up, and you wouldn't want to do it anyway, but if I were to bring two adults and one youth up, and one of the adults is going to have the same conversation with the adult as they do with the youth, is there going to be a difference in how they have that conversation? Oh yeah, there is. I speak with adults a lot, and I speak with youth a lot. I speak to you guys in a form of a sermon. Whenever I speak at the youth, it's going to be a little bit different, a lot of bit different. I might use different words. I might carry myself differently. But we do things differently. Many times when we talk to youth, maybe we speak a little bit more condescendingly, like. Maybe we don't think that what they have to say carries as much weight. And I'm not saying all these things just to pick on you, because I do it too. Believe it or not, I'm an adult. I'm not just a big kid. And I have to learn how to speak with youth as well. Let me ask you a basic conversation question, like etiquette question. Is there a difference in talking at somebody or talking to somebody? What do you think? All those that think yes, there is a difference, raise your hand. All those that say no, raise your hand. I thought most of you would say that there was a difference because I asked the question in the middle of a sermon. So, talking at someone is the act of engaging with another person in a monologue for the purpose of releasing an unpleasant emotion. When we talk at someone, we're usually mad. Or we usually think that they don't get it. Or that they're not able to comprehend it. But when we talk to someone, it's the act of engaging with another person in a dialogue for the purpose of inviting them to see your struggle and seeking perspective, common ground, correction, or encouragement to persevere the difficult circumstance. Talking at someone closes the door of communication. Talking to someone opens up the door of communication. Jesus knew what he was doing when he talked with people. John chapter 4, think about Jesus and the woman at the well. Did Jesus speak darkness into the life of the woman? No, he spoke life into the woman. He didn't condemn her. He said, hey, you need to correct your way. But he spoke life. He gave life. John chapter 8, Jesus and the woman that he saved from being stoned. The woman that was caught in adultery. Did Jesus speak darkness into the woman, or did he speak life? He spoke life. What about Paul and Timothy? When that church was having some issues, did Paul just come down on Timothy and speak darkness into his life? No. He spoke encouragement. He spoke life into the life of Timothy. 1 Timothy 4:12 says, command and teach these things. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and purity. I love that verse because Paul is communicating with someone far younger than he is. And he's speaking life. And he's speaking encouragement. And he's speaking hope and love. And he's doing so by an example through his speech, his conduct, love, faith, and purity. Church, young or old, I'm calling us to do the same, to speak life into the ones around us. Youth, it is not just the adults that have to speak life, though. You as well. If 13 Reasons Why portrays what school is like even halfway realistically, then you need to be speaking life into your peers. You have to. Or one day you're going to come to school and you're going to have a program or something and it's going to say, we lost this person due to suicide because they did not feel loved. Church, we have a responsibility to give the love of Jesus because Jesus changes everything to those that are lost. When I taught at a Christian academy, we would go on field trips. And it was often my class, a junior high ages, and then a younger class. And I would always tell them, whenever we got on the bus, whether it was a sports trip or whatever, be the example. You got to be the example. Why? Well, the younger ones are watching. Adults, you have to set the example for the younger ones. Senior high, you have to set the example for junior high. Junior high, you are going to have to set the example for the younger ones. We don't break the cycle or bring others out of darkness unless we are speaking life and bringing hope to those that don't have it. Be the example. The tongue has the power of life and death, so speak life. And when we speak life, we create something positive in someone's life. We speak life, wisdom is going to follow. And when we speak life, we're going to have a positive influence. And we can take someone that was in the dark and bring them out of the dark because Jesus changes everything. Hope is only found in Jesus Christ. Did you know that suicide is the third leading cause? It might have moved up to second now, between the ages of 10 and 24. Did you know that? We live in a world where death and darkness prevail. But do you know what has prevailed against death and darkness? Jesus. You guys were just in Sunday school. Jesus. Jesus is the answer. Jesus changes everything. Jesus is what prevailed against death and darkness. Why do I tell you that? Is this sermon about suicide? No. This sermon is about us speaking life into people that don't feel like they have any. Is every kid thinking about suicide? No. This sermon is about us, the followers of Christ, speaking life into our youth. Because when we speak, it matters. And our youth matters. So speak life into our youth. Death is becoming a fantasy by the way that death is being depicted. At least to our teens. And if we fail to speak, that death is going to become a fad. It's all about us training up our youth in Christ. It's about us doing our part to be an example. Jesus changes everything. Proverbs 22, 5-6, many of you know it. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards himself will be far from them. Train up a child the way that he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. That is what we need to do. We're going to have our youth band come back up. But before we sing, I have to challenge you guys. So band, come up. You'll be here. You'll be ready. But church, we need to set the example. We need to be the example. Know it or not, believe it or not, accept it or not, you have been speaking into the lives of our youth. Did you know that? That you have already been speaking into the lives of our youth. That you have been, that you currently are right now speaking into the lives of our youth, and that you will continue to be speaking into the lives of our youth. How, from this point forward, will you go about speaking? How will you go from this point forward, go about conducting yourself when you are in interaction with the youth? Or when you think about the youth programs, or when you think about how you need to invest and mentor our youth, how are you going to go about it? From this point forward, are you going to speak life, or are you going to speak darkness into our youth? Because you're going to be speaking one or the other. In the words of Paul, set an example for the believers by way of speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity. And speak life into our youth, speak hope into our youth. And in our youth, we need to be speaking.